Eyelids are pretty thin, delicate looking, which is nice. She could have actually tucked this corner of the eyelid here. Again, we have the same problem. Could have rounded that back a little bit. You can see on my face how the eyelid comes up and around, like so. I'm looking at his proportions here, and they actually look pretty good. I think in general he's gotten pretty wide on the eyes on these two. The eyes should be about one eye's width apart, and it looks like he's got a little bit more than that. Folks, today I'm going to be reviewing the students' work from Fundamentals of Wood Carving, which is a wood carving school that I started in 2020, whereby people are able to access content that I've created, instructional content on how to create realistic faces, some relief stuff, various different projects. They then post their work on the Facebook forum that we have, and I review it. And so in this case, I'm going to review it in real time so you can see, and should be good. Looking forward to seeing what we've got. So let's start into it. The first project is by David, and I'm sorry, John. John did this one, and this is a really nice wood spirit. He especially did a great job with the eyes on this one. I love these eyes. They're very vibrant. He painted the whites white, which I don't think I've done. Maybe I've done once in my entire life, and I remember thinking it looked awesome, which I don't know why I don't do that. So John, you're inspiring me. That looks really cool. His proportions are great. It looks like his forehead shape is nice. It's not too flat. It looks like his hairline, if I was to criticize anything, I would say probably his hairline could be taken back a little bit. Let me thicken this line up a little bit. I would take this hairline and make it a little more natural, so it could probably come back. Of course, my drawing skills are pretty crappy, but you get the idea. Taking that hairline and making it not so perfectly uniform. You know, Sylvester Stallone has that perfect hairline right now, but you know, what did he pay for it? So anyway, John did an excellent job on this piece overall. I mean, that's really one of the kind of main things I would say as far as critique goes. I really like the structure of his eyes. He's got the lids, everything set properly. I would say he could probably take this corner in here and take it in just a little bit more and thin these lids up. They look a little thick, especially down here. I think I'd pay a little bit of attention trying to push this inside edge and this side edge around, remembering that the eyelids kind of wrap around the actual ball of the eye tightly. See how that comes up in my eye there? Anyway, but he did a great job kind of finding all the placement of the turns, and the groove that he created under here is placed properly. It looks good, and I think A+ for me. All right, so moving on to the next one. So far, so good. We've got Teresa, and Teresa is a really talented student in the school, and I like what she's done with this. She's really utilized the entire surface of the bark piece to carve it, and you know, or rather to its best purposes, which is to show these beautiful big leaves that she's done. And I think it's a great piece. I think she's done an excellent job, especially with the face. If I just do a little zooming in here just to see what she did. Yeah, it looks like she did a great job with the eyelids. I don't mind a little aproportionality with the lid. You know, we've got, you know, a little lower eyelid than this one, you know, from left to right. But I like that, actually. I think that is very realistic and nice. So she's done a great job with setting up the proportions in general. I really have very little to say. You know, the eyelids are pretty thin, delicate looking, which is nice. She could have actually tucked this corner of the eyelid here. Again, we have the same problem. Could have rounded that back a little bit. You can see on my face how the eyelid comes up and around, like so, and meets the upper lid. That lower lid wraps in. So from the side view, you can see where that tucks under the upper lid, the lower lid at least. So anyway, she did a nice job. I like the cute little nose. It's a little short for the face, for the width, but that just makes it look cute. I don't think that's a problem. So great job executing the face. Any critique I would give would probably relate to the first thing I'm saying, which is the width of the head on this side. It looks like it kind of goes out into infinity. At least you can't really tell that, but you assume because of the angle, you know, moving out this way. I would just trim this back just a little bit on the edges, just a tiny bit. You get kind of a wide face, although different types of faces that have that sort of shape are it's real. So you know, I'm not trying to say that what I'm saying with these as far as my critique is right. It's just the way I would do them. So yeah, great job with this piece, Teresa. Wow, very nice. You know, I guess one other critique, I'm being harsh on you, Teresa, because you did a great job, but the veining here is a little thick. These are big leaves, so she can get away with it. It's stylized. I like it. And you know what? I don't mind that they're thick, but if she wanted to go for more naturalistic leaves, she might thin the, you know, thin these little guys a little bit. But I think it's a great piece. I love it. I don't think the thickness distracts from anything. I think she did a great job. So moving on. All right, next we have a mountain man. This is from David, and it's nice to see that David's you know, he has a good attitude and he's been brushing his teeth. So that's good. I hope with not that brush, but and he's studious. He's got his note paper, so that's good. David did a really nice job with the eyes on this one. It looks like he thinned the eyes on his first carving that we saw earlier. His eyes were a little thick, and on this one, I think he's done a nice job to get the appropriate thickness of the lids. They're a little thinner. He tucked the inside corner in a bit here and here. He might be able to round this edge in the inside corner a bit more. You know, maybe thinning this lid just a tiny bit more, and tucking it in like he did on this one. You can really see the corners there look good. But nice job on the face here. Nothing wrong with that. A critique, maybe I would have shortened up the nose a little bit. If you look at his face in relationship to his chin, you know, we apply the rules of proportions, which again are meant to be broken, but we just draw a halfway line here. So we've got fairly equal spaces from here to here, right? Halfway between that is usually the nose, right? But that would make sense if this was the bottom, if this was the bottom of his chin, but it isn't. The bottom of his chin is probably somewhere here, right? If he's got a big bushy beard like he does, his beard's extending past his chin. And so anyway, point being, it looks like he could take the beard and probably make it a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier past the chin to keep the proportions in check. But otherwise, he did a great job with this piece. Yeah, nice work. All right, so the next one is another one from David, and David did a version of a sailor that we did in the school, and these are all works based on carvings from the school. It looks like for the most part, maybe a couple of them are kind of you know, straying from that, but this one is nice. I like the use of the bark here to frame it. You know, I think he could have used a little bit more of the bark. If he could use the bark at the top here, let's see if I can screenshot, up in this area, I think it would have benefited the piece for him to leave this gray material here and put it here. I think that would have made for a really nice kind of frame. And I don't mind that there's none down here. I like it, just kind of leading off the edge. And he did a nice job with the nose. The eye shape is great. Looks like he's got a little bit wide on the face here. The overall width in relationship to the height of his face, it looks a little bit wonky. Usually the ratio here is 1.5 to 1. So, you know, in other words, your face is going to be about 1.5 times taller than it is wide. So that being said, nice job on the piece. The features themselves are good. He could probably have lengthened the nose just a little bit, because again, if we did all the application of the proportions to this, we'd see that his nose is probably just a little short and his eyes are a little large and wide, but it works out okay because there's all types of people. So nice work, David. Moving on here, we've got Daniel. Daniel did a really nice job with this piece. This is a great, you know, just a great size of face for the bark. I notice a lot of times people make the faces like so big that they're really not, they just barely fit. And that's a style. I think that kind of looks like a, you know, when the face kind of trails off, it looks like a ruin or something. I like it, but in this case, he did a great job with the sizing and proportion to fit all the hair in. And I like how clean the background is. I like that he really paid attention to, oh, we lost it. The background, keeping it nice and clean and smooth. The feather detail, I like how he created these cutaways. That makes for a very kind of realistic looking feather. And nice tight groupings of the, are they ferrules? Is that right? I can't remember. The tines of the feather. I think that's not the right term, but nice job on the hair as well. Nice and thin. A lot of times you see people with this really voluminous hair, and it just doesn't look right on these guys because they bear grease their hair down. So it wouldn't look like mine. You know, you wouldn't have all this crazy volume. Actually, I could use some bear grease. Anyway, so the nose proportions, man, I really like this piece. I don't want to take a lot away from it by critiquing it. It looks really good, but I would probably tuck, I like what he did on this side. He used the gouge, probably used some sort of either a large number 9 or a smaller 7 or a 5 to create a nice transition, tucking the lower lip into the corner, the oral commissure here and here. And I just would have done that a little bit more on this side. It looks like it's lacking there. He could have pushed the lower lip into the oral commissure here a little bit more, getting that nice development of the mound to the barrel of the mouth. And you know, I like his kind of stylized wrinkles. I like how they're kind of in the wood, the way they're set. I think he just maintained consistency with sharp wrinkle lines, and so it all looks very coherent and together and consistent. And so I wouldn't change a whole lot about this. I think he did a great job. Maybe a little bit sharp on the brow ridge. It looks like the brow ridge would have a little tiny bit of an indentation here, the orbital opening here and here, so he could have softened the line just a little bit in those outside corners, but that's me picking. I think he did a great job. All right, next we're moving on to some work from George. These, by the way, are all in cottonwood bark, and a lot of the projects that we've done in the school up to this point are in a bark from the cottonwood tree. And it's very easy to carve. It's very beautiful looking. As you can see, it's got a nice rich tone to it. But we're kind of moving away in the school from cottonwood bark because not everyone has cottonwood bark. It's actually pretty hard to find sizable enough chunks that you can carve. And so we're going to more woods like basswood, butternut, pine, etc. So anyway, moving on. This is George's piece. I think it's cool that he tied the first and second piece into themselves, into each other, is what I mean to say. It's nice kind of design there. I like that there are groups of 3 here. I really like when people utilize the bark to create lots of kind of figures and detail, and cottonwood bark is good for stacking people heads. And so nice job on the design part of it. I'm looking at his proportions here, and they actually look pretty good. I think in general he's gotten pretty wide on the eyes on these two. The eyes should be about 1 eye's width apart, and it looks like he's got a little bit more than that on this particular carving. So he could bring the eyes in a little bit tighter. Looks like the nose width is a little wide. It might be just a tad bit wider than it should. Typically, the inside corner of the eye lines up with the ala, or the nostril flare edge, and then the eye inside pupil lines up with the oral commissure. So he did a good job with that. Just could narrow the nose, the nostrils just a tiny bit, if it were me. Although, you know, again, people have their own faces and noses, and you know, whatever. That looks good. So he did a good job with the nose width up here, I think. Maybe just a tad bit of lack of structure in the bridge. The bridge is pretty kind of solid looking all the way up as it meets the forehead, and I would have just taken that and made it a little bit more kind of narrow past the ball. You've got the ball, the narrowing of the nostril here, or nostril of the bridge here, and then it widens out again, and then it might even narrow again at the inside corner. Oh my gosh, my drawing skills are showing through here. And so, yeah, that's kind of, you know, main concern that I have with his nose. Placement of his mouth is pretty good. Rule of thirds says that the mouth should be placed, you know, in between the first and second third, and between the nose and the chin here. And he did a good job of that. So, anyway, nice job, George. Let's move on to the next project. All right, so there's another 3-head piece from George. He actually seems to have gotten better at spacing on this particular one. Oh, I'm not screenshotted. In this particular guy here. These ones have a little bit of an issue of, I think the forehead kind of V's out. The overall shape of this guy's face is very V-oriented and very short. And generally you're probably going to see a little bit more height on that forehead. He could have continued that hair detail. He probably didn't want to encroach on this guy, which I understand. But otherwise, nice job on this piece. Yeah, he did good work. All right, so moving on, we've got, this is Jimmy. Jimmy did a really kind of, looks like he used a shallow piece of bark, which, hey, I respect utilizing the materials that you have. I've done quite a few pieces in their school with smaller, thinner pieces, because again, people can't always find the thick stuff, but this is a nice representation. I really like the shape of his forms, especially in the nose and mouth. He has some nice narrowing of the forehead here as it moves up. You know, he's got this kind of nice shape. I'm happy with that. Let me erase this. Otherwise, yeah, it looks like he got a little wonky, if I were to criticize anything, with his proportions. His center line, his top of his head, bottom of his head. His nose, I think, could just be a little bit longer. You know, I think usually we decide that about half of the, you know, space between the eye line and the chin, usually the nose lies right at the bottom of that line. So he could have extended the nose a little bit more. If I were him, I might have. But he did a great job with the shapes of the mouth too. He has that nice philtrum, the nice development of the lower lip, upper lip. You know, he's got the nasolabial folds or the smile lines there. Everything looks pretty in order. I would just tune up your proportions a little bit, Jimmy. Otherwise, I think he did a great job. One last critique I would say, he could have paid a little bit more attention to kind of deciding whether it was a hooded eyelid. It looks like he got a little confused here as to whether it was hooded or an exposed eyelid. You got a smooth transition of form here. I would have just taken a little bit of time to separate the lower eyelid, or sorry, the upper eyelid from the hood, the skin that comes over it, if it was hooded, or actually fully expose the eyelid and have that come down if it was an exposed eyelid. So, and then, you know, you're cutting a V cut in this area here. So, nice job. All right, and just a couple more. These are both from David. David is the first person who we reviewed earlier, and David went hard on this piece. I mean, look at all the details. Love the pipe, the feather, necklace. He even, I don't know if he painted that, but that's cool. It looks like he did a painted representation of, oh gosh, the stone is escaping me. Anyway, it's very nice. It'll come to me in a second. What is this stone, Annalise? On jewelry. It's the same turquoise. Thank you. Turquoise. Anyway, he did a great job with the jewelry. Turquoise, I like that. On his face, I think he did give him some kind of grumpy expression, which I don't mind. I think the main issues that I'm seeing with the face, wow, look at that headband work. That's nice headband work. Lots of detail there. That's cool. Is he again, I think the overall shape of the head is a little bit kind of V'd. I'd like to see a little bit more of a maybe not boxy look, but tapering of the forehead. I'd like to see the forehead come in a little bit more here, and to trim the sides of his face, especially at the temples in this area here. That would be very helpful. And I'd also like to see him kind of narrow the eyes just a little bit. It looks like they come really far across. They're very close to one another. I would have given them a little bit more distance, maybe shrunken them. I'd take this eye down here and this eye down here. And that would be a much bit better eye. I would tuck the corner in as well, you know, under kind of following the roundness of the eye in here and here. Another quick thing, the lips, they're a little bit thin, they're kind of hairline lips. I would have taken and opened this angle up a little more by kind of flattening. It's a very sharp angle. It's almost like a, gosh, I don't know, like a 90, or well, not quite, maybe like an 80-degree angle. I would open it up to like a 60-degree or 50-degree angle here, exposing that lower lip a little bit more. The same thing here, I would open up this lip just a bit more if I was him. But otherwise, hard to represent with a pen. But that's it. I think he did a nice job otherwise on the face, and lovely detail work, and great piece of bark as well. Okay, is that it? Oh, we got one more from David, and that's it. This one I particularly like. I like that he, again, chose this very nice white bark, contrasts the dark face of this guy, and you know, I'm not sure what type of paint this is or what this represents, but I like that he was going, you know, to sort of add detail to the piece by painting it. You know, I think he did a better job of actually rounding the eyes here. You can see the dimensionality of the eyes, and that shows up in the piece. They're nice and round. They're, you know, coming out of the face. Looks like this one got a little bit wonky, a little bit thinner and flatter. It could come over and be rounded out a bit more, like this one. And part of the way that you can fix this issue with not great symmetry in the eyes is by making each cut one at a time, one on one side, one on the other. So I make the upper eyelid, then I make the other upper eyelid. I make the lower eyelid, then I make the other on the left side, and then I make it on the right side. In other words, what I do to one side, I immediately go over and do to the other side, and that will keep everything in proportion. So otherwise, great job on the face. It looks like he opened the lips up a little bit more here, which I'm liking. Yeah, overall, a nice carve. David's definitely gotten some improvement. I don't know if he did this one after the others, but you can see his growth there. That's great. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed it for sure. I'm gonna just keep looking through various students' carvings. These are the ones, folks who volunteered their pieces, so thanks for letting me review your stuff, guys. And maybe we'll do this in the future. And yeah, if you want to check out the online school and you'd like feedback like this, and you'd like, you know, of course it's in the written form, and I'll also draw on your pieces as well. Check out the online school in the description below. It's called Fundamentals of Woodcarving. So you can see these projects scrolling by. These are all the projects that we have available on the school at this point, and there's actually quite a few more that we're adding this month. I add at least 2 every month. Well, supposed to add 1, but I add 2, and secretly I add more. So anyway, check it out.